So I've basically seen a lot of the YouTubers making their tech career videos, and today is a Sunday, which is the 31st of May, and I decided to make one myself, because why not? I've been only coding for like 4 years, from 2023 to 2026. It's obviously a short period of time, but there are ups and there are downs, and I think it's worth sharing. I've started at UniMelb, Bachelor of Science of 2023, and majoring in computer software systems. Why I chose coding? Because I thought it makes lots of money, and particularly back in the time, back in high school graduation, after graduating from high school with decent ATAR, I thought there was a particular number I want to make that is 600,000 in RMB and working 10 cent. Don't ask me why it's 600,000. Don't ask me why it's 10 cent. I don't know. And basically, the start at between 2023 and 2024, my resume looks like this. And my best experience is obviously working at McDonald's, which is very insufficient for finding a job. And yeah, apparently I needed a personal project to build up the resume. And that's what I did in July break, in the winter break of 2024, which is summer in China. I went back to my grandma's house and did a project following a Chinese online tutorial. And I tried applying to some of the tier one big tech companies, right? Everybody wants to get in there anyways. I didn't have a true evaluation of my capability. I just applied to see if the resume works. And yeah, that worked. And I received interviews for DD and ByteDance. And yeah, so after proving the resume works, I just decided to grind a bit of lead code during the summer break, Christmas break in Australia, winter in China. And I grinded a lot. That is 300 questions in like 1 month of time. And I once did 100 submissions, repetitive submissions, just to memorize the code. Repetitive submissions in one afternoon. And that is not very nice. To not learn from that, I don't think anybody will learn from me, but just particularly to not learn from that because I burned myself out. And now we're hitting the second milestone of my job hunting process. The first milestone is obviously projects. And the second milestone is actually the July of 2025. So how the Chinese employment season works is that the students try, because it's autumn in China, they call it the autumn employment season. Students try to interview for those big tech companies or medium-sized companies in China, and then they sign the offer and they go to the company and work for the company in the next year after they graduate. That's how it works. So I had no internship back then. I had only a project, which they call Everybody Has One. And I had about 400 lead code questions grinded, most of them forgotten. And I had very little to none sort of Java fundamentals or computer fundamentals in my head. Basically, it's just me going to an interview without preparing at all. So despite being that, I actually got quite a few. I wouldn't say a lot. It was actually considered a very small amount of interviews by me, myself, back then. So I got some big tier one tech company first round interviews. So it's Tencent. And that's the only proper developer role that I got interviewed for. And I failed that miserably. There was one question where the interviewer asked me. He first said that the first question he had was, after clicking the return upon you type in the URL of the website, what happens? And I memorized that, I just said it. And then I mentioned DNS, right? And then he said, where is DNS? And I was like, I have no idea. And then I just had no idea the majority of his questions basically and just failed. Yeah, that was an immediate fail. And the other big tier companies were like ByteDance. Of course, that was actually a quality assurance role. I kind of failed the fundamental part, where it's like he's asking me about operation system questions and fundamental questions, basically Java fundamental stuff like that, and I failed that miserably. And also, I could not solve the algorithm questions he gave me, which is a two-pointer question actually. That came up a lot, but I still keep on failing. So yeah, I could only brute force that, and I couldn't find the optimal solution, and I failed as well. And the third tier one big company I got was Meituan. I got that twice actually, for both for quality assurance role. And the first one I failed, and the second one lasted for an hour and 10 minutes, and I failed as well. Yeah, so I failed a lot of interviews basically, and I got a bunch of small companies interviews, and magically, for those smaller companies, which size 20 people to 99 people, I got through the second round interviews for all of them. every single one of them. But there's a problem with the Chinese smaller size companies, right? They don't have the sort of the proper recruitment season which the tier one tech companies have. They can't wait for a candidate to work for their company like 3 months or a year later. They don't have the sort of mechanism. So yeah, that's at least I believe was part of the reason why I failed the second round interview, because they probably had like a person who can work for them with more experience and start immediately, right? So that I failed that, and then I was burnt out, right? I had school, I had a bad mindset, and I had graduation stuff to do. So I just thought, why not to go back to China and just work for my dad, right? That's exactly what I did, right? I went back to China during the summer break and went back to Shanghai, worked with my dad, and the internship turned out miserable. It was completely different from what I expected. So yeah, it was undeniably one of the happiest 3 months I've ever had in my entire life before. I really miss that. Yeah, in the end, I just turned up playing badminton 3 times a week, going to gym 3 times a week, and learning how to drive in China, basically, which was fun. Driving is fun. And yeah, my dad basically wanted me to come back to Australia for a master's, and basically I had nothing else to do back then. So this is not exactly a choice for me. If I want to develop a career, I probably would like to do a master's. So that's here I am doing a master's of software engineering, continuing my coding path with a major in artificial intelligence. After I came back from China, that was March 2026, I came back and I started the summer internship job hunting. Summer in terms of the Chinese summer. I got two interviews again. I got interview from Meituan, but that's for a core business, core group, basically. I failed it again. The interview lasted for 2 hours, 1 hour. Within the 20 minutes of those interviews, the interviewer asked me questions about things such as HTTP, HTTPS, MyBetis Plus. One of the specific questions he asked me something about MyBetis Plus, and he said, since mappers are interfaces, how can it work without having a class implementing that interface? And the answer is obviously proxy factoring, but back then I had no clue of that, and I just couldn't answer most of his questions. And the other question he asked me was actually, how does the request find the correct controller in Java, Spring Boot? I had no concept of that as well, so I failed as well. He gave me two algorithm questions. I failed both of them. With the second one, I actually was able to solve. It's the same two-pointer question I got during the 2025 autumn employment season, but I still couldn't solve it. What is very interesting is I was able to solve the question during one of the online assessments between this period of time. So yeah, me being nervous definitely played an important part in it. Yeah, and ByteDance in Sydney gave me a chance as well. That was my first technical interview in China in English. Despite being in English, but that person is actually a Chinese guy, right? And ByteDance sort of interviewed me in a very traditional Chinese way, which involved a lot of fundamentals and no behavioral questions at all. Well, very little behavioral questions. So one of the questions that ByteDance interview asked me was, he gave me a scenario where 10,000 requests hit a single Redis cache. And he told me that cache collapsed, and he told me how would I prevent that. So the answer is obviously Redis sort of clustering, and I had no clue about that. And I can see that guy really wanted me, so he almost just I'm not being narcissistic about this. He almost just put the answer right in front of me, see if I can catch the answer or not. And in the end, he asked me something about concurrency, and he I think we both realized, at least what I think he realized is that is a true blind zone in my knowledge. And yeah, so that kind of, so I did that part badly as well. And then the algorithm questions, basically, it was least recently used cache, and apparently I failed that as well. So yeah, that's what happened. So both of them, Meituan and ByteDance, who gratefully offered me multiple opportunities throughout both of my milestones, I failed them again. I have no hesitation to believe they will give me future opportunities, because the performance I had during the summer internship interview was much better, I would say, than the autumn employment season. Yeah, it wasn't really conceptually, it wasn't really on the knowledge, based on knowledge that improvement in performance. It's actually the improvement in mindset, basically. Is there any successful experience in my summer internship hunting? Yes, there is. I've successfully found a remote internship at a startup in China. Very small company, very young as well. So their company had their tech stack highly matched to what is written on the resume. But my knowledge on the practical field is limited back then. But I was glad to have an interview. I mean, I was glad to have an offer, and I started working there. So they were working on microservices. Yeah, I was assigned to be responsible for one of their microservice modules. There were stressful moments, obviously, despite not being 8 hours a day, but there were things that AI could solve, Claude could solve, but there were things that Claude couldn't solve. Was it sort of stressful? It was, especially in the first month, because that was my landing period, and that was also the time where I had the most stressful work coming in. Did I learn anything? I learned a lot. I learned more soft skills than the hardcore concepts. The sort of most important hardcore concept I learned was state machines. The soft skills I learned at the internship was a lot more than the hard skills I learned, right? So the most important thing I learned was to sit in front of a computer and then look at the random errors stemming from somewhere. To have faith in myself and in the machine that it does stem from somewhere and can be solved at last. So whatever error that is, it can be solved, and there is a root cause, and the root cause is usually pretty obvious. That marks the end of my my career job hunting process so far. I have not got a job. I have not yet passed a single first round interview for any of the big tech companies in both countries. And I've only got a very, 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 very small company internship doing some sort of valuable work. Have I succeeded? Definitely not. Have I learned something? Definitely yes. Do I have doubt in myself? Definitely yes. Just probably to everyone who's job hunting at the moment or anything like that, this might have not been successful yet. So give you guys my favorite quote. I do not remember the full sentence, but it was Atticus's words from To Kill a Mockingbird. It's something about you know you look before you begin, but you see it through and do it till the end, right? So yeah.